All right, now we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, my distinct pleasure to be joined by Mr. Fuzz. I don't know if I ever asked you the origin of that name. I probably did, but I can't recall. Like, well, what was the origin of your pen name there, Mr. Fuzz?
So the story that I make up is actually that it's
Did you make up?
Yeah, it's short for Fuzinski or Fuzenstein or whatever. But no, there's no actual Fuzz in my name. When I was 16, I made my first email address, and I didn't really have any brilliant thoughts on it. I called myself fuzzybread@hotmail.com, and then it just kind of stuck. Like my Instagram handle, if you look it up, is fuzzybread13. And I've been Fuzzy Bread for a long time. And then when I made TikTok, for whatever reason, I just shortened that to Mr. Fuzz. So I do not have a good story for it.
Wait a minute. It's just a random word, fuzzy bread? Like there's no meaning behind it?
Moldy bread is what fuzzy bread is. So, yeah,
right?
I was a 16-year-old idiot just trying to be funny.
That's not me, but okay. All right.
Like your handle power is taken, not given. That means something, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Fuzz doesn't mean shit.
Hey, that's cool. That's cool. No, hey, listen, it's
stuck.
It's just as good as anything else, though. It's kind of like in Pulp Fiction when Esmeralda asked Butch what his name, my name is Esmeralda Villalobos. It means House of Wolves. What's your name? He's like, Butch. And she's like, well, what does Butch mean? This is America, honey. Our names don't mean shit. And so, it's kind of like that. It's perfectly fine. And that's acceptable. My name, it's funny that we all like made these email addresses for ourselves in, people make the first email address in 9th or 10th grade or something, and you're stuck with that email address for the rest of your life. Like, it's terrible. And so I made my first email address was in college. I think that's my freshman year of college, and like in 2000. And there's this guy who was on my floor, and I asked him what his email address was. And his name was Nate, and he said, "Give Nate money." And I thought that was really funny for an email address. And so I tried to make mine give TJ money at yahoo.com, but it was already taken. Some unoriginal asshole had already stolen it. So my email address was give TJ cash at yahoo.com for years. And then when you start like doing professional shit, you're like, okay, I can't put, give TJ cash. So then I had to make a Gmail one that's just, my initials, and they goes with that. But I've seen a lot worse. Like you guys have like, Booty Eater 420 as their email address. Like, okay, all right, that can't stick with you for the rest of your life. And so I kind of lucked out there.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that at least I had a creative weird one, as
opposed to
true. A hot dude at gmail.com or something, which is like I knew a guy who had something along those lines where it sounded like he was just trying to flirt with people when he had his address, and it's like, at least I got something creatively stupid as opposed to.
I knew a guy, I don't even remember his name, but his email address was Light Skin Slim was his email address. And I say, like, come on, man, how serious do you want people to take you here? You're a grown-ass man. You can't be sticking with Light Skin Slim at whatever.com. I wish I could remember his name so I could see his face, but I can't remember his name. But speaking of the old days, like I asked you like some topics to go over, and I loved every one of them. And I want to go into politics, obviously, but the other ones I just couldn't avoid. And so I titled this one, I don't know if you saw the title of the live, where I titled it X-Men 97, but instead of the letter X, I put EX, because it's a joke that I think a lot of people come up with, that the term X-Men sounds like a group of trans individuals. Like, I mean, I thought of that a long ass time ago. And I thought of it because first off, did you ever watch the old X-Men cartoon, and have you seen the new one that's come out?
New one yet. I am a binger. I'm not great at waiting for things.
Ooh.
Well, so let me rephrase. I'm great at waiting until it's all there, and then I watch it all at once.
No.
I don't want to wait a week to watch the next episode, right?
Oh.
So that's why I was never a comics book guy. Because I was really, like, I'd read a comic book, and then what the fuck's going to happen to Wolverine next, right? I got to wait a month for that next one. I'm much better at waiting for things to all come out. So I haven't watched X-Men 97 yet, but I did watch the original ones back in the day, and I was really into it. I'm excited about 97. Haven't watched it yet. But on the flip side, like, I just watched the whole Fallout series in 2 days. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not familiar with Fallout. I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. It's a game, I thought. And I
Well,
guess it's a show too.
Yeah, well, yeah. So they just dropped a show on Amazon like 3 days ago, and I watched the whole series. But I'm a gay. I play that game, so I'm pretty into that. But
Well,
X-Men is something I wanted to talk to you about because I've seen your videos where you talk about what your favorite X-Men says about you.
oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I just reposted those in honor of the new series.
I've greatly enjoyed that series, and I've actually always said that what your favorite Ninja Turtle is says a lot about you. And that's something that I've not really seen you talk about, but like my Ninja Turtle was Michelangelo, right? I'm a fucking kind of party kind of guy. I like to just hang out, have fun with people. But, like my dad, he's more of a studious guy. He was really more into like Donatello and stuff. And I feel like there's the ass kickers or ass kissers, I should say, who are Leonardo people. There's the asshole who's the Raphael people. Like all these people have their different ones. And the X-Men one I like as well, because I feel like that's a very similar kind of thing where everyone can kind of see themselves in certain characters. But I never saw you think about my boy, and that's Gambit.
I did do one with Gambit. I did. I'll have to tag you in it after the episode we do here, but I'll let you wait and see what my thoughts are on Gambit fans. And I definitely did one, and I also did exactly one Ninja Turtles TikTok a while ago. I mean, not that long ago, maybe a month or two ago, and it was about Michelangelo. Oddly enough, now that you mention it, is that so. I'm remembering what I said about it, that Michelangelo is not my favorite Ninja Turtle. He's not. But I think he is the most important Ninja Turtle. And I say that because when you look at the concept of the Ninja Turtles, as a fighting team or whatever, you have Leonardo, who's the leader. He's the tactician. You have Donatello. He's the brains and the creator. And you have Raphael, who's like the tough guy and the ass kicker. And then Michelangelo is a party dude. That's how they describe him. They describe him as the party dude. Yeah, and he's not going to be crafting battle plans like Leonardo, or like pulverizing the enemy like Raphael, or creating the perfect weapon like Donatello. He's going to be skateboarding and eating pizza. Like his entire addition to this team is a combat liability. He should not be here, but the show doesn't work without him. Like the entire concept of the show are these anthropomorphic 5-foot talking reptiles who are taught karate by a giant rat. It's absurd. And the more you think about it, the less you think about that, the better the show is. And Michelangelo is there. It's like, oh, this is really fun. And so you don't think about it too long about how this kid is out here keeping up with everybody else when he has no business being a ninja whatsoever. So it's funny that you mentioned that was your favorite one, because I do think he's like the show. You could remove any of the other turtles, I think. But if you remove Michelangelo, the concept just doesn't work at all.
So I don't think you can necessarily remove any of the other turtles, but I do agree that like it would just not be fun.
No.
Like without Michelangelo, it would have to be a more serious show. And then you're right, it probably wouldn't work. But like, it did magic work. It just wouldn't be a good time to watch anymore.
Yeah. No one wants to. I mean, at least, you know what? You could have like a dark Ninja Turtle story now. But when it came out, it's like, hey, here are a bunch of turtles fighting crime. Take it seriously. No, come on, get the fuck out of here. Like although I guess the cartoon or the original comic was darker, but it still just sounded goofy. I don't know. I just think Michelangelo needs to be there for the show to actually work, and maybe it wouldn't have taken off culturally. And I do. So I don't know if you remember this, but in the old cartoons, I remember that at a certain point in time, Michelangelo stopped using nunchucks, and he had like this grappling hook he was always swinging around. I remember this happening when I was a kid, and I was very annoyed by that. All the other turtles still had their weapons, but Michelangelo would always have this string and have like a turtle shell with a hook on the end. That was a grappling hook, and he was always using that instead of his nunchucks. And it turned out there were complaints about how violent the show was, and so they took out the nunchucks. They're like, not the swords. Not the swords, though. Like that was fine, but the nunchucks they took away. That didn't make any sense to me, but I remember that.
So you actually never saw Leonardo slice anything, right? Like he was always using the swords to like block things, or he'd like hit a robot or something with
Yeah.
it. But if it was an actual human person, like a member of the Foot Clan, he wasn't murdering those guys. And same with Raphael. So I mean, even as a kid, I realized like Donatello and Michelangelo are the only ones actually using their weapons.
Yeah, these weapons properly. That's true.
The freaking big boots kicking them and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't remember the grappling hook, but I did actually have some of the Ninja Turtles comics, like episodes 1 through 20 of the original ones. My mom found them somehow.
Oh, that's cool. Wow.
One thing that I remember being similarly annoyed as you were with the grappling hook, apparently, is Raphael stopped wearing his headband in the comic books and just like he was a complete ninja. Like Raphael was just in all black, and then just like 3 other turtles.
Why?
Yeah, he was trying to be taken more seriously as a ninja.
He was being edgy. He was going through his edgy teen phase.
And,
shit.
And I remember like telling my mom about this. Like, yeah, apparently Raphael is being an actual ninja. He's wearing black so he can blend in with the darkness and stuff. And my mom is like, well, now he can't blend in with the trees and grass and shit. Like,
I liked when in the cartoon, whenever the turtles would try to blend in with the population, they would put on these trench coats and hats. Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, nobody's gonna look you at your face.
I know, right? No one's gonna, that's the last part they're gonna look. I always thought that was so absurd, but the show was just funny. But with the violence thing too. So I remember being in France as a kid, and I went to this arcade, and I was really happy to see that they had a Ninja Turtles arcade there. And so I went there to play the game, and it didn't say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on there. It said Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. And I was like, that's weird. What I thought maybe it was a weird mistranslation. Like the French people got it and they fucked up, ninja and hero. It wasn't until years later that I found out that the violence issue came up in Europe a lot too. So a lot of European markets didn't print the word ninja because they thought the word was too violent. And that's why it said Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. It was like 15 years later when I found that out. I spent the rest of that time just wondering why this weird machine said Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, but apparently that was pretty common in Europe at the time.
So I was fortunate enough to always like grow up with a Nintendo or whatever in my house. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time in arcade games, but the Ninja Turtles 3 games that I've ever actually played all the way through from start to finish. When I was like 7 or 8 years old, I went to Las Vegas with my parents, and they put me in the top area of Circus, which was just full of arcade games. And my little brother and I went all the way from start to finish on the Ninja Turtles game. And I've since done that with the X-Men and the Simpsons. Those are the 3 arcade games I've ever beaten.
Which Ninja Turtle game?
Was there more than one Ninja Turtle arcade game?
So I don't know. Well, okay, so Ninja Turtles 1 was the one with the infamous water seaweed level. I don't know if that was in arcades or not. I don't know.
That was an NES game.
Yeah, okay, that was an NES game. Okay, all right, you meant at the arcade. I didn't catch that part. Okay, so you're probably Turtles 2. That was an arcade game.
Maybe so I don't know what it was called. I think it was just called Ninja Turtles. But I think one ever arcade game of the Ninja Turtles, but I might be wrong on that.
I don't know. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
Yeah, that X-Men arcade game and the Simpsons arcade game, which I never played a single good like Simpsons Nintendo game, but their arcade game was fun, and powered all the way through that at a birthday party once.
There was I'm having a hard time thinking of the Simpsons arcade game. That one I'm drawing a blank on, but I remember the X-Men one and everything. I remember the Turtles arcade game because I'm pretty sure they ported that as Ninja Turtles 2. That game was fun. You could team up as 2 turtles. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, that game was great. I loved that game, and I beat that game somewhere around. In fact, it was somewhere like the first week of September 1991. I beat that game, and I know this because I beat the game as the same day we had my mom's 30th birthday party. And I was so mad that no one gave a fuck that I beat this game. And they were all paying attention to my mom because it was her birthday. And I saw this, we had this home video of my dad recording everything going on during the day. He's like recording the family, my brother, my sister, my mom and stuff. And then like out of fucking nowhere, there's a video of just the television screen and me playing Ninja Turtles 2. And my dad said, and TJ beat Ninja Turtles 2. Good job, TJ. Like, he felt so, I can't believe he capitulated to my selfishness like that, but it was so sweet for dad to do that for me. And I was watching that because honestly, if I'd have saw some, 9-year-old brat whining that no one's kissing his ass for beating a video game during someone's birthday party, I'm like, shut up, stop. But my dad, kind soul that he was, gave in to, his bratty kid. So I appreciate that, Dad. If you ever watch this, thank you.
Yeah. So I used to collect Nintendo Power magazines.
Oh, those are great.
In the back of that magazine where like they would say like, here's a video game that we want to see the record holder for. And, you would have to like take a picture back when you had to get those things developed. You take a picture of your TV, the time that you beat the game, but you also have to show your Nintendo in the picture so that you're not cheating. And when Ninja Turtles 4 was out, that's the one where you were like going through time, and that was on the
Turtles in Time. Yep.
I got my name in the Nintendo Power magazine for beating. I had beaten the record, but somebody else beat me, but it showed like the top 3 scores of the time, and I was either second or third on that one. Oh no!
I know it's what. I have a lamp back there that does the purple light. I think it fell. That's why the light's gone. But that was weird. Either that or someo's waiting in the closet to kill me. One of the two. It's gonna be
a really weird way to end this live stream.
It'd be my most watched one, definitely. If a murder happens on the live stream. But yeah, I never even got close to having my name. I never would have considered trying that. I was in it for the love of the game. I wasn't trying to get a high score, and I wasn't good enough at any of those. There's a movie called The King of Kong. Have you ever heard of this movie? And it's about a. Say what?
Oh, I've seen that.
Oh, you've seen it, so you already know. Okay, yeah. So I wasn't aware of the competitive nature of high score arcade games until I watched that. That shit got pretty brutal.
Yeah, so like for the most part, I'm not really a high score kind of guy. I do just kind of play things for the sake of it. What particular case, basically they were saying like what your target time was, and I just kind of remember thinking like 2.5 hours or something. I'm pretty sure I've beaten that faster than that. So like that was the only reason I ever really would have considered that kind of thing, because I'm really not that great of a gamer. I avoid online gaming almost all the time because I used to play Call of Duty or something, and I would just get fucking murdered out. And like I thought I was pretty good at these games until I started playing online, and it's only gotten worse as I've gotten older and have more responsibility. Yes. Like when I was a kid, I could play the games all day, but now I can't and stuff. And it's like I remember playing World of Warcraft back when that was a new thing, and just like getting slaughtered by all these people. God, I was like, man, I gotta go to work. I can't be doing this all the time. So yeah, I mostly play against the computer in games where I go around and collect things and kill a few bad guys here and there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. We were born too early for the online gaming thing. It happened like as in like our early teens when you could you start Warcraft. Like Warcraft 2 was the first game I ever played online. And by then I was like 16 or something like that. And so, I wasn't great and everything, and I can only do it. And plus, like just to do it, you needed the right technology for it, which not everyone had. And so my friends, we would have like LAN parties sometimes where you link together your computer, you play against your 5 or 6 friends. That was pretty much the limit to my online gaming. And every now and again, I had the opportunity to play random people, but I never did online gaming. And then, this would have been, not so like 6-7 years ago, like when Fortnite was first started getting big. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it. Massacred. And every game I try to play online, I'm just slaughtered. I was like, oh yeah, you can't get into this shit in your 30s. That's not going to work. You're not only, like you said, you have the adult responsibilities and shit, but your reaction time is just a lot slower. You're not going to be able to compete with a 15-year-old. You just can't.
Yeah, when you're an old dog, you're trying to learn new tricks here, and it's impossible. I don't have the technology for that stuff back in the day either. Like I didn't have a computer, I had a Nintendo, so I thought I was the shit because I could beat my boys at GoldenEye. But then like first-person shooters online, it's like, it's just there's so many levels above my head there.
Yeah, you were a big fish in a small pond, and then you realize that the shit got a lot more real back there. But that's the I like that more anyway. Maybe this is the old man talking in me, but I remember like my friends and I would get together for a sleepover, like 5 or 6 or 8 of us, and we would play Mortal Kombat against each other. Like
Oh yeah.
playing against someone I know and is in the room is just a lot more fun than playing against some fucking stranger somewhere. I don't know. It just wasn't for me. So I don't know. I would feel differently if I was born 20 years later, I'm sure, but it's just I like those days.
I've got very fond memories of me and my 3 best friends getting like WrestleMania all night long and have a 4-way match and stuff. And there was so many things that you couldn't have done if we weren't all in the same room, including it was legal according to our wrestling federation. It was legal for me to like slap the controller out of your hand, and then you have to get it. But if you didn't lose the control, if you held onto it the whole time, then it makes me look weak for failing to slap it out of your hand. So it was one of those things you had to use very strategically. You had to like do it when they weren't in it, and we'd just be talking mad at each other the whole time. And given that time frame, we were also fucking high the whole time. So I mean,
I do like that whenever you're playing with your buddies and stuff, you can kind of make your own like weird stuff. You craft your own like form of Bushido or something that you all follow the shit that wouldn't necessarily work if you were playing online with strangers.
right. So, and actually on that thing, we had a code where in wrestling, everyone's got like these finishing moves that they would do. If I see that somebody doing a finishing move, I can't get involved. Like they gotta fucking hit the Stone Cold Stunner or whatever, and then I can attack.
It's like Dragon Ball rules. Like you have to wait for your opponent to finish powering up, and therefore it's poor form to step in with something like that. I wanted to back to the X-Men. That's where I want to get to with the X-Men and everything. I forgot about it, but so Morph. Morph was the character that I put well, I don't know, you haven't seen the old X-Men. Do you know that Morph looks different now? Have you seen that?
I heard that actually. So I haven't watched the new ones. I did watch the old ones. I didn't watch the new ones. But yeah, I've heard that Morph is different than he was. Now, was Morph in the comic books? Because I thought he was like a character that was created for the TV show.
Kind of. So the story with Morph is interesting. So Morph is based on a character they had in the 70s called the Changeling. And there was this storyline where Professor X dies. And what they find out that it actually wasn't Professor X. It was this different person called the Changeling who was impersonating Professor. He was a shapeshifter. And so that's who the character is based on. And they said, well, okay, that was like, 20 years something, that character had died. And they said, okay, we're going to bring this character back for the cartoon so we can kill him since it's already a dead character. But the name Changeling was already copyrighted by DC or some other comic strip. And so they had to call him Morph. And so like, okay, we have this character that we had in the past. We'll bring him back, kill him again, and we'll be good. But little did they know, we all loved Morph. I remember watching it as a kid, devastated when Morph died. I was like, what the fuck? How did you do this to us? And I didn't, and it's like, say what?
That was in the first episode, wasn't it?
First episode, second, or yeah, first, yeah. Because at the very end of the first episode, yeah, I was like, they're gonna just introduce this team and then kill somebody. I thought maybe he's not dead. No, dead. And they planned to keep him alive, but they brought him back in the show, as you know, later on. That Mr. Sinister brought him back, and now he has black eyes. He has these bags under his eyes, and he's evil now. And then he ends up defeating, what's the name of the giant sentinel? Master Molds. And Morph is the one who defeats Master Mold and shit. So at the end of the last series, Morph is there, part of the team. And so he's part of the team still today. And he looked, and the character was so popular, they brought him back in the comics. And so really? Morph exists, in the comics now. And so the Morph that they have here, his look is the look that he had originally, where he's just like his face is like a mannequin face, which kind of makes sense for the kind of person that he is. Like his base form is just this, featureless human figure. And so so Morph looks a little bit different.
So Morph coming back evil is actually why Gambit became my favorite character.
Interesting.
Because in that episode, he turns into Rogue and then like gives Gambit a kiss and says, "I'm going to go take a nap." And there's like the real Rogue sleeping, and Gambit is like, oh. He walks over there and kisses her and passes out. She's like, what the fuck is he doing?
Gambit's great. I love Gambit. Man, okay. Oh, hold on. I'm bearing the lead here. I can't believe I let this slide by because I was so disappointed to hear this. This may be our first major disagreement in that you are a binger. And I was just thinking today, like just today, how much I dislike binging. I don't like it. Because there is so much fun in watching an episode and then spending a week theorizing and talking about it with your friends. That's and then letting the episode settle. So back when binging first started becoming a thing, I quickly realized how much I didn't like it. And so I would make rules for myself, like House of Cards, the show I really loved, and there'd be 13 episodes. I limited myself to 2 episodes a day. Like I would not watch anymore. And I did that to let the episodes settle. And so I could, I give me at least some time to ruminate and think about it. It's more enjoyable that way because I just power through it, 12 episodes in 36 hours. I feel like you miss a lot. And so I was surprised to hear that you're a binger because I'm disappointed.
So I would actually love to enjoy things the way that you do it because I do like letting things settle. But if I let the whole week go by, I will often forget what happened. I'm just way too ADD, I think, to act, especially in things where you have to like think more about it. Like if it was just like an action show, like, watching Avengers movies, like that's kind of a different story. Like if I saw Iron Man 3 years ago, I'm fine with the next one. But for things where there's more like twists and turns along the way, if it's been a week since the last episode, I'm not going to remember it all in quite the same way, I feel like, as if I just watch them. And they don't have to be in the same day necessarily. Like, yesterday I watched 6 episodes of Fallout, which was a little ridiculous. Like, I don't feel like I need to do that all the time. But a lot of times if I'm waiting like a whole week between episodes, it's just like that little, 45 seconds they show you at the beginning of the episode. Not enough.
Doesn't do it for you, huh? Doesn't do it for you. Did you watch Breaking Bad?
No, I haven't. And I'm going to.
Well, you're going to watch it incorrectly, apparently. That's how you're going to do it. So that was the best show if a show's already out, yeah, of course, you're going to binge it, I guess. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, at that point, I wouldn't. But I understand. But back when it was first coming out, like, going to work or to school and talking about it, that was, I don't know. I like shows that come out like that, like Invincible. You ever watch Invincible?
I don't even know that one.
Oh, that's a good show. Oh yeah, that one's on Amazon Prime. It's well, I'm surprised you haven't heard of it, honestly. You ever heard of Omni-Man?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, wow. There's so many memes. There's so many memes. It's like, but yeah. The synopsis of the show is that it follows this character named Mark Grayson, who is the son of the world's greatest superhero. It's a cartoon. His name is Omni-Man, and he's 17 years old, and his dad says that, his dad is an alien, like Superman, like from a planet called Viltrum. And he's like, we have these superpowers, and when you turn 18, you're going to get your superpowers. And he's just waiting for his superpowers to, appear. And he's all stressed out about them not coming. And then he gets the superpowers, and his dad's training him. And it's like a coming of age type thing until the very end of the first episode when his dad massacres this universe's equivalent of the Justice League, just kills them all and barely, like, out of fucking nowhere, kind of. And so he doesn't know about this. All he knows is that they're dead, and his dad is barely alive because he just took on the whole Justice League. And they spend like the whole season trying to find out who did this. And anyway, it's a great show. It's a fantastic show. I'm surprised you haven't run across it yet, but you can binge it now. There's 2 seasons out. You can watch the whole thing in 15 minutes if you want. But that show was really great because it was an Amazon show, so it came out weekly, so people got to theorize and shit. It was based on a comic, so people who already read the comic knew it was going to happen. I didn't, and so that was great. But yeah, I highly recommend Invincible. If you like, it's gory as hell. It is like The Boys level gory, but even more so because it's a cartoon, so they can do a whole lot more with it. And honestly, the story is just very well written. It's just the guy who wrote the comic is the same guy who wrote The Walking Dead. Kirkland, I think his name is Bob Kirkland. Like, as The Walking Dead was a comic, and then Invincible was a comic, and they both made a TV show. So it's pretty good.
So one advantage to being the binger that I am, as opposed to the people who watch it as it's going on,
the way God intended.
And I gotta say, like, if everyone was like me, these things would get canceled, right? Like, because nobody would watch it when they're coming out. But like, I hear all these people talk about like Game of Thrones, right? Like, they loved this show, and then it ends, and everyone hates it now, and it's just like, I guess I just won't watch it because everyone's just mad at how the show ended. So I feel like there's some advantages to the way I do things, but yeah, I'm just bad at it. And pop culture is something that's always kind of eluded me.
Really?
I don't know what it is. Like, I don't really listen to the radio or watch TV a whole lot. So, like, one of my best friends works at a radio station, and every once in a while he's like, "Hey, man, here's a band you would like," and I say, "Aha, it is a band I would like." But when TV shows and all these kinds of things, a lot of times I just completely miss them. I just don't hear about it until after the fact. I'm the guy who like finds out about things way after they were cool.
Well, add Invincible to that list because it's great. Because it's great. It's a great show. I mean, it's like the best superhero property I've seen in a very long time. It's better than, I don't know if you watched Wait, do you know The Boys? You seen The Boys?
Seen some of The Boys, yes.
Okay, all right. It's better than The Boys. And The Boys I think is pretty good. But shit, what was I gonna mention with the? Oh my God, I know I can't twist your arm into this, but you really should watch the new X-Men series, man. You really should. If you are even casually familiar or interested in the X-Men, this show is amazing. Like, it is. When I first heard the show was coming out last year, I rolled my eyes. I did. I said, I am sick and fucking tired of media just banking on nostalgia. And, literally just like, oh, you like this when you were a kid, right? You remember this reference, right? It's so fucking lazy. I get why they do it because, if you have a ready-made audience and you can just reboot it or continue it, it's a safer bet. I get it economically, but artistically, it's lazy as hell. And then I got especially worried when I found out that it wasn't a reboot of the show. It's a continuation of the show. It's like the show never ended. They're picking up exactly where the old show left off. And I said, oh God, that's going to. Then I saw the first episode. Amazing. I went beyond my best expectations. And it's just been a very fun. And what's so great is that it takes place in 1997. So all the clothes and all the technology and everything, it hasn't changed. And it looks really cool. But my God. The last episode of the show, and maybe like, I don't know if it comes out Sundays or not, but episode 5 just came out, and it was about Gambit, your favorite dude.
Okay.
Incredible. It is like the first 4 episodes I had no problems with. This 5th episode, like, I shit you not, I was talking to someone about it the other day. It's some of the best television I've ever seen. Like, this fucking X-Men cartoon, this one episode is just amazing. I can't hype it enough. I don't know how many episodes are going to be in this season, but you can binge these 5 episodes and you will not be disappointed. I promise.
All right. Well, TJ, I guarantee you I will watch this show this coming fall.
Hey, you got to be true to yourself. You have to be. I can't. You haven't gone this far in life to just change your the way you act on a whim. I understand. I respect it.
Well, I also work seasonally, so I'm getting into, where I'm about to be super fucking busy. So, I'm not going to have a whole lot of free time on my hands over the next several months anyway. Come September, though, I'm going to be in hibernation time, and I'll watch me some TV then.
That's good shit. One thing you mentioned, I think one thing you put in the list was comedy. And I love this topic because I'm a funny guy. I can crack wise every now and then. And I take comedy very seriously. I was thinking about it. Actually, I've been thinking about it for years. My entire life, I think about it. Is that, like, for me, the formula for crafting a joke is quite simple. Like, it's like, you don't gotta put too much thought into how a joke is formed. Now, whether the joke is good or not, that's hard. But like, actually structuring a joke is pretty easy. And I'm always amazed when I find people can't do it. Like, you try to explain to them, you've known people just cannot tell a joke to save their lives, or can't even make a funny observation. And it's like, how do you live your life like that? how do you live your life just like not noticing the humor out there? And there's plenty of people like it, and those people bewilder me.
Well, so obviously there's a lot of intuition that goes into telling it. But what you're just describing is more of an intellectual approach to it, where you're actually looking at how the joke is crafted. And honestly, I think probably 95% of the population has just never even put any thought into how to be.
Yeah,
funny.
true.
They just think they're going to be funny and usually fall flat. I got into stand-up comedy probably 8 or 9 years ago. It's something that I've been doing as a hobby for quite some time. And I recommend anyone who is just like a regularly funny guy, just try it. Like as an open mic, it's a different skill set than just being funny conversationally, but just going up telling one of your favorite funny stories. Like the first time I ever went there, I just told the story about the time I judged a lingerie contest, which is a true story. And some big fucking guy was mad that his girlfriend lost. And then he gets up in my face. Wasted. I eventually talked my way out of the situation. But that was like just a story that I've told people a bunch of times. And I told it in front of an audience and laughed at it. And then, I started like actually writing jokes after that. And I got better at it over time. But yeah, I think stand-up comedy it's a great hobby for anyone to just fucking try because there's open mics everywhere. It's a really cool thing also, like any vacation I ever go on, I can always find an open mic. Be the funniest guy in town at any one place because all these open mics, everyone's trying the same jokes over and over and over again to the same over and over again. So they've all heard it, but they've not heard my 5 minutes. So I'm going to go in there and just be, laying a bunch of jokes they've never heard when everything else is all old stuff they've heard a million times.
Oh, I missed that last thing. What did you just say?
Oh, just, like when they're doing the open mics, people are usually just regurgitating the same jokes over and over again. Some new guy, it's all new material for the whole audience. So for you when everyone else is laughing at your jokes.
So I've never done stand-up comedy once. I've never even attempted it. And I tell a lot of jokes online. I write, like I would post funny jokes and stuff. And I do a lot of public speaking and I tell jokes all the time during public speaking. And they of course knock it out of the park every time, not a dry eye in the house. However, like you said, stand-up comedy, completely different animal. Like it is one thing for me to get up into a conference and speak to a bunch of housing executives and start making jokes. They'll laugh at everyone. Like they're not expecting it, which is like, once again, like the part of the not expecting it is the big part of the comedy. It's the whole premise. Like you need to take someone's mind somewhere they don't expect to go. And they have this involuntary laughter response. Stand-up comedy though, you stand in front of a crowd and like, all right, make me laugh. That's hard. Like that. Holy shit. I'm surprised anybody does it. Like that is incredibly difficult.
So one thing you got to remember is just like the audience is there to laugh. You know what I mean? Like they want to be told jokes. They might I think people build it up in their head how difficult it's going to be because, there is something to be said for like, make me laugh, funny man.
Yeah.
But like they do want to laugh. So when you're doing public speaking and you're mixing in some jokes, at the end of the day, like if your joke doesn't land, who cares, right? Like that's a slightly less entertaining speech, but at the end of the day, you're not there to be funny. When you're there to be funny, then there's more pressure. But I feel like the audience still like they're wanting to do it. One thing that I've said about stand-up comedy is it's the easiest thing I've ever done when it's going well, and it's the hardest thing I've not going well.
God,
not laughing, and you've still got 10 minutes you gotta fill like that.
Jesus, it's so. I told this story. Okay, that reminds me of I did this. I don't know if you saw this TikTok I did, but I was the best man at my best friend's wedding. I don't know, years ago, like 15 years ago or something, and I didn't tell anyone what the speech was going to be. And so I wrote down like 12 jokes for the speech. Like it was going to be a humorous speech, but I didn't tell anyone that. And so when it came time for me to give the speech, I stood up. But when I stood up, like my hand was shaking and I had the card. I knocked over like a glass of wine, and I was all picking it up. And the crowd was like, "Oh no!" Like the crowd was just like they felt so bad for me. And my buddy like put his hand on my shoulder, and then I started. I'm just joking. I've been waiting for this forever. And the crowd immediately laughed because they all thought I was nervous of this. And then I proceeded to just murder it. Just like every joke was just like it was great. It's one of the best feelings I've ever had. And so killed it, of course. But unbeknownst to me, there was another guy who was the MC of the wedding, a guy named Tony. And he also had a bunch of jokes prepared that he gave when it was his time to present, and every one of them bombed. Every single one of them. Like, it was just crickets every time he told the joke. It got so bad that my best friend's dad like yelled from the back of the room, "Hey, Tony, when's the funny part?" And then the crowd laughed even more. Like the crowd just exploded. So I think about poor Tony because he soldiered through. He told every one of those awful jokes. And I was like, God, couldn't be me, man. Couldn't be me. I would have just like slowly walked out of the room. And that's my worst nightmare. That's what I think of, which is like why I've never done it, because I'm a coward.
Fucking an open mic, just do it. Because like if an open mic is going poorly, you can just leave, right? Like you don't have to soldier through it. If it's a paid gig, that's another thing. But that's not what they do to the beginners out there. They just throw them out there. Here's your 3 minutes, 5 minutes if you're lucky. And like I said, you tell a few stories, maybe write a couple quick little one-liners or something. But I mean, I think it's something you'd be good at. I think you should give it a try sometime. I
think that I would be better than average. I do. It's just that I don't feel like the need to do it. I don't know. It's like maybe I'll try it someday. I'll send you a video. See how that goes. But I do think I'd be good at it because, like you said, where you mentioned most people don't think about how to craft the joke. I think about it all the time, and like a lot of it is intuitive. You're right. It's not like I write out an equation. It just kind of happens by itself. And I've always been so if you were to ever meet my dad, you would talk to people about my dad. Everyone I've ever met has said, "TJ, your dad, he's so funny. He's so hilarious. Your dad is so funny." My dad is not funny. He's not. My dad is this is what bothers me is that my dad's humor is like third grade humor. The jokes he says and the setups I see coming a mile away. Like he says 4 words, I already know. Okay, plus I know him very well too. So I was like, all right, I already know he's bullshitting about this. I know he's telling a joke. It's probably gonna lead somewhere here. Like every now and again, he gets a good one in. But like, I don't like my dad's humor because it's so easy. Like I don't respect it. Anybody could do that. As like, I could get any random 8-year-old to do these jokes my dad is doing, and you guys are just slapping your knees over here of how funny it is. It's not. And so I do overthink it a lot because like I only respect jokes that I think took some work to craft, and I don't think my dad does. So yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, you sound like you're the workman's comedian. Like you're wanting comedy where that actually shows that this guy has done something impressive. Like, I look at like a guy like Anthony Jeselnik, the guy who like has all the dark jokes.
Yeah.
And he is a master of misdirection, right? Because you going dark. You already know going in. And then he still manages to flip it on you in some way or another. Like you never see his punchlines coming in. I feel like that's something that you're respecting as opposed to sometimes more obvious humor. Sometimes simple sells too.
I'm fine with an obvious joke here or there, but you got to come at me with more than that. I'm just amazed at what people laugh at sometimes. Like, for example, I've always hated fart jokes. Or in fact, not even jokes. There's people farting and people laugh. I was like, no, I can see a 4-year-old laughing at that, but a bunch of guys sit in the room and one guy farts and they all start laughing. So, why? What? It makes me angry. It's like, that's not funny. That's not funny at all. It's just it's a funny sound that you've heard 1,000 times. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I do take, this was I take comedy too seriously because I just don't respect people who do. It's like, I'll watch, now when you're watching a comedy films, I think are the hardest films to make. It's up there, like, maybe horror is harder, like to actually invoke a fear response from people. And it's why I respect psychological horror because like they're putting in the work, and why I don't respect slashers nearly as much. Both can be enjoyable, but if you're just going to do torture porn, anybody could do that. I'm not interested. But I noticed this years ago where every comedy I watched, there would be one character who would ask, what are you high? And everyone would laugh. I was like, that's not even a joke. And you hear it all the time. Like, are you high is not funny. I don't know. It's just like I'm getting too worked up about this. I'm sorry, but it's just like I get that, when you're writing comedy and you got to do 50 jokes, they're not all going to be A-tier jokes. But Jesus, put a little more work than that. I don't get it.
I'm always amazed by like the movies, like the fact that people put those together. Because when I write a joke, I've written both good jokes and bad jokes, right? They feel the fucking same to me while I'm writing them. It's not until I do it in front of an audience that I can actually tell like that joke is a good joke, or I've told a joke a few times and it was a bad joke. When I was in bands, I knew the song rocked the first time I fucking heard it, right? Like I right away, this is a good song, this is worth keeping, this is a bad song, put it in the bin, right? But like jokes don't feel that way to me. Jokes, I have a hard time learning. Because, they all kind of feel funny to me when I'm writing them, but sometimes just like the premise is funny maybe, but the execution is not any good. So to put that in a movie where you spend, millions of dollars putting this movie together and then just release it out in the world, that's crazy to me. Like I'm baffled that people do that. They seem to have a formula for it.
Wait a minute. This surprises me because when I write a joke, let's not make a joke. Let's say a funny observation, I'm trying to think of an example. Like when O.J. Simpson died, what's the first thing I thought? I thought something like, I was like, O.J.'s wife's killer is finally dead, or something like that. But I thought, okay, we ground control to Mr. Fuzz. We've lost Mr. Fuzz.
Here.
Oh, there we go. Like my first thought was, oh, well, OJ's wife's killer is finally dead. That's the first joke I thought of, but I immediately dismissed it. It's like, okay, everyone would think of that joke. That's a joke I expect like pretty much anyone to come up with. So yeah, every joke you think is good, because I don't believe you. Because it's like some are better than others. And so,
some are better than others, but like, let me put it this way. If I could just tell that a joke was a fucking rock solid joke right off the bat, open mics would not be necessary anymore, right? Like those are a testing ground for jokes. This allows us to workshop things. We can start adding things into our jokes and, seeing if these extra punchlines are fun or not, little tags in them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like without the live audience to actually hear these things, it's harder to know if this is a good one or if it's too wordy,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like with comedy, as opposed to basically any other thing I've ever done, like actually hearing responses from the crowd as it's happening is vital to the joke process. But I find that when I got good at comedy was when I stopped doing a whole lot of preparation for open mics. What I like to do is just put my phone in my pocket on like audio record mode and just go there with like little to no game plan and just like say whatever comes to mind. And a lot of times I won't even remember it. And then I'll just go back and listen to the audio later on and be like, oh, I said this and they laughed at that. And that's kind of how I make new bits a lot of times. A lot of comedians go around it, like Seinfeld says he spends an hour a day writing. And I have no idea, like that means nothing to me. Because if I just spend time, nothing's going to down. Like I just don't know how to like write jokes. I don't know how to just sit down and make inspiration happen. Jokes come to me when I'm driving. Right? And that's when funny shit comes into my head. I'm always baffled by people who treat it like it's an actual job, and granted it is a job. But
yeah, I'd have a hard time sitting down for 30 minutes and just writing jokes. I don't think I could do that either, because it's funny what you mentioned about just going up and winging it sometimes, because I don't do stand up, so I can't compare it to anything. But whenever I have a speech prepared, I always have jokes peppered in. But without fail, I will always think of a joke on the fly right before the speech. And I love it. I love it when someone speaks before me, because then it's easy to make a joke. I don't know why, but like if someone talks for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I can make a joke out of anything that they say there, which is great because usually they weren't that funny. They're not there to be funny, but the crowd will remember it as a callback joke, and it endears me to the audience. It's like, oh, it just works. So that does happen. That does happen. And on the political podcast that I do on Thursdays, I always end the show with like our buffer, or like our advertisement, whatever, and I always make a joke, like without fail. Three people will talk. I'll find a joke to make out of those three. They aren't always home runs, but you can always find it. So yeah, there is a lot to that, and I can't imagine. Like, are you familiar with Mitch Hedberg?
Oh, of course.
Oh, well, I don't know. You're like, I can't be sure, man. But Mitch Hedberg, I just like in awe of the jokes this guy. And if anyone's familiar with them, they know exactly. It's hard to explain Mitch Hedberg because that's right. When you were talking about how a lot of times the jokes, you have to workshop them to get, the cadence right, to get, the wordiness down, usually, maybe more, not usually. But I would have a problem with that because if I tell a joke a second time, it's not funny to me anymore. And so like saying the same joke over and over again, changing a little bit, it gets less funny to me every time. And for some reason, if I don't find it funny, it's hard for me to convey that to the audience. And I think that's probably why I never tried like the same thing, because I don't possess that skill set. Some people do, where they can tell the same joke, and craft it over and over again. But man, this is my 40th time telling the joke. I don't want to say it anymore. I'm not going to find it funny. Even if it is funny, like I'm not going to be able to sell it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's something to be said for that. I was a theater kid, so I'm used to just kind of performing things, whether or not it's amusing. So there is something to be said for the way you tell the joke, obviously, too. The cadence and all that kind of stuff. Facial expressions matter.
Yes.
So, I tell a joke about, a can of Pringles that I've got, and it's not funny to me. I've been saying that joke for 6 years now, but I know that if I just say the words, it's not going to land. So there is something to be said for just like, you got to force yourself to perform in a certain way when you're doing it. But, it's worth it for the payoff, because when the audience laughs, you kind of laugh with them, because I connect with the audience pretty well, I think. So when they're enjoying it, I'm enjoying it. Even if it's not necessarily funny to me, it becomes funny to me because it's funny to them.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. One skill set you mentioned that I never had was writing songs. You said that you write songs too. Mm-hmm. I tried to write a song once or twice, like in high school, and realized how incredibly difficult it was. Like it was so difficult, I couldn't believe people were actually capable of doing it. Like any asshole can come up with a melody, but then when you start adding everything else to it, you're like, oh my God, like what do you do? So that's an incredible skill set that I'll never understand.
Well, so are you talking about like the music side of things or the lyrical side of things?
Well, lyrics would be much easier. Lyrics I think I can handle, but music, that part I can't do.
So that's actually interesting. I find the lyrics the hardest part. I don't think of myself as being much of a poet. I can do a little bit here and there, but that's not really something that I would consider to be my forte. But, I'm good at coming up with a melody in my head of some sort. I play guitar, and I'm kind of a punker, but I come up with some chords that sound right with the melody. And as I've learned more about musical theory, it's less trial and error than it used to be, just because like, okay, I know these notes are going to sound good with these chords kind of thing. But, I just kind of construct the song. I find that musically speaking, coming up with something catchy and then backfilling it with, a rhythm, that strikes me as being fairly intuitive. That's actually key. Coming up with words that somebody's going to give a shit about.
Well, the music is the music is the more important part, though, because like rarely do say what.
Oh, I think so. There's some people that disagree with that statement, but
they're wrong. They're wrong. I mean, you could.
A lot of I have no idea what they're saying. There was a guy came up to me at a bar after my band got done playing a show, and he's like, "Wow, those lyrics really spoke to me." And I was like, "You fucking heard what I said?" Like,
well, so there are times when lyrics absolutely do, like when lyrics really matter. Like, so like my favorite songs, like I love the music and I love the lyrics. Like the combos are the same, but I can rattle off a dozen songs on top of my head that I know the music but couldn't tell you all the words. Hell, you don't. Some songs don't even have words, or it's in a different language, and it's amazing. And you can it's a universal language. It can convey feeling without actual thoughts. But I can't name one song where I was like, these words are great, but the music sucks. I can't think of one example of that that I enjoy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I'm all about the music. I wrote words because I needed words to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, sometimes we were just fucking around with songs. There was this one song we called "Say Something" because we couldn't think of anything to say in the lyrics, so we just stole things from different movies or something. Like this one verse would be a poem from this movie. The second verse would just be rattling off what some guy said as a monologue later on in a different movie. And we just combined all these things because like I couldn't think of anything to write for that song, but it was a catchy tune and people liked it.
I like that. That reminds me of something. I'm trying to write down here. I want to get to that about throwing in phrases because it reminds me of a song that I really like. But I was trying to think of an example of words. Like I can't imagine writing words and then music, although that happens sometimes where people have like a poem and then they'll put music to it. That's odd. And for a weird example, I thought of Wham of all things. And so the song "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go." The story behind that song is that George Michael, a buddy of his, like they were, I think it was from Wham, and they were supposed to go partying one night. And he left George Michael a letter or a handwritten note because he was like crashed out taking a nap. And he like stuck it on the door or something. And then when George Michael got to the door, it said, "Wake me up before you go go." And George Michael thought that was cool, a catchy little thing, and wrote a whole song off that phrase, "Wake me up before you." I was like, I couldn't imagine doing that. Like I couldn't imagine going backwards from the words into the song. But there's this like artist that I heard of a long time ago who I just love now for no reason, like this like indie guy from Owatonna, Minnesota. And his name is Harmar Superstar. And I first heard about him listening to NPR. And NPR was telling a story about Sam Cooke. And Sam Cooke died as a young man because he had like invited a sex worker to his hotel room, and she had this thing she would do where after the act was done, the guys would go to the bathroom, she would rob them. But when she robbed them, she would also take their clothes with her so they couldn't chase after her because they were naked. And so, which is hilarious, right? It's just so funny. And so this happened to Sam Cooke. And they're staying at this hotel somewhere. He wakes up, he comes out of the bathroom, the shower, whatever, realizes his wallet's gone, his clothes are gone. So he like sprints out of the hallway, butt ass naked, and say what?
Like Borat?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he sprints out of the hallway, butt ass naked, and he runs up to the receptionist, like demanding to know if she sees. Of course, the receptionist, she is scared to death. Like there's this drunk, naked guy yelling at her, and she kept a firearm on her, because, working late night hotel, and, shoots him in the chest. And so as he's laying on the ground dying, he says, "Lady, you shot me." And those were his last words. And Harmar Superstar did a whole song called "Lady, You Shot Me." The song has nothing to do with the Sam Cooke story, but he did the song backwards from that phrase. And I love Sam Cooke's last words too, because he just gotten shot and he still called her lady. That's very funny to me that he still was enough of a gentleman. He's like, I would have used a different word, gotta say. But anyway, that actually wasn't the story I was getting at. Harmar Superstar did another song that reminded me of what you were talking about, where he just took random things and added them. He does this song called "Famous Last Words." And it's a song that I always liked. I thought it was always catchy, whatever. And it was way later till I realized that the lyrics to the songs were literal famous last words. Like sometimes he would say like, "Tomorrow at sunlight, I won't be here," which were Nostradamus's last words. And then it was like, "I love you, but this dying is boring," which were, I think, Bertrand Russell's last words. And I had no idea that peppered throughout the entire song were literal famous last words. And I love that. See, that shit takes work. It's not like fart jokes. It's like where you actually put some effort into the shit. I love it.
That would be a lot of work, because in order to fill like the song just right, I don't know if it rhymes, but like you want to have syllables and everything. Like that would be
Yes.
that would be a fucking chore. I want to hear that song.
Oh, it's yeah. I'll send you a link for it or something. Famous last. It's a I don't know. The song was just it was just an odd sounding song, but I heard it out of nowhere. I was like, I kind of like it. And then I realized that every bar, or not every bar, but every stanza has at least one line that's someone's famous last words, and I kind of love that. But all right, oh man, we're good.
I could imagine listening to that and then just being like, these lyrics are very interesting, but kind of like disjointed. Like they don't seem to go.
They all sound like it's like there was one that it was like born in this hotel room. God damn it, I'm dying in this hotel room. Like I can't remember who that one's from, whatever. But it was a weird sounding song. Like you said, it does sound kind of like that, but I loved it, and I just loved it even more when I found out that it was filled with that. But we're already at an hour, only got a half hour left. But I wanted to finally get to politics. This is our kind of our bread and butter here. So I will give you my thoughts on what's happening now and my predictions. Honestly, it's probably not because I've been saying the same thing for like a year now, and I just feel supercharged about it more and more. Is that I think we're going to be seeing a Republican bloodbath in November. Like I do. I really do. I know that like all the polls and stuff are like, Biden is either tied or behind with Trump. But the more I see from the Republican Party and what I've seen over the last couple of elections, it doesn't look good for the Republicans to me, especially, for example, Arizona. Arizona just passed or just ruled that 1864 abortion law, that right now that's the law of the land. Abortion is essentially illegal for any reason. Now, say what?
For every reason. Like,
yeah. And so they have a Democrat attorney general who's not going to enforce the law. But what they essentially did is guarantee Arizona will be blue. Like if there was any shot at Arizona going red, say what?
I agree completely. Like there was a good chance that Arizona could have gone red because it's gone red fucking besides one time, every time in the last, in our lifetime. Mm-hmm. Then they decided to just fuck everything up. In 2022, they overturned Roe versus Wade and the dog caught the car, right? That's what they're trying to do for such a long time. But now they've done it. They have no idea where to go with this. And the Democrats are fucking pissed and independents are pissed. Women's reproductive rights are a popular thing. And, there's all these people that have wanted to get rid of it, but people weren't really energized on the left side of that issue because like, well, it's legal. Like, what do I need to worry about? All of a sudden you take that legality away and places like Kansas are voting for Democratic governors. Places like Ohio, Republicans are losing on like these abortion bills. Like they're losing everywhere on it. And when you look at the 2022 midterms, that was supposed to be a bloodbath for the Democrats, right? That was a red tsunami. They barely took the House. They took the House in such a small margin that they couldn't kick George Santos out. Like Republicans barely took us. And that was when inflation was 9%, right?
Yeah.
Like things were actually bad in the economy. You look at the 2022 midterms, and then you look at where things are now and the way the economy is trending, everything is better now than it was 2 years ago in terms of our economy. And Republicans are still trying to fucking pass all these abortion bans. I think that alone shows that things are going to be looking a lot better for Democrats than people are assuming. And there's also just like, there's a lot of people that are mad about Joe Biden for one reason or another, whether it's like Palestine and Israel or, like we didn't get our student loans forgiven the way we wanted to. That are like upset about Joe Biden and disapprove of him, but weren't comparing him to Trump. And they're going to compare him to Trump here in the next few months. And that I think a lot of people are come home as a result of that.
You think a lot of people stay home, you said?
No, they're going to come home. Like they're going to come home to the Democratic Party.
Gotcha.
Mad about. So everyone who hates Donald Trump is to Donald Trump's left, right? People who dislike Joe Biden are not all on the same side. Right, who hate Joe Biden, there's people on the left who hate Joe Biden. The people on the left who hate Joe Biden are not going to vote for Donald Trump, right?
Right.
They might not all vote for Joe Biden, but if enough of them do, it's going to be a bloodbath for Donald Trump.
I think it is. I have been saying this for like 9 months now. And that honestly, like what really sealed it for me was 22. Actually, yeah, it was maybe before 9 months, because 2022 did show us like the Republicans had the worst performance for an out of power party in like 100 years. It was, and everyone was predicting a red wave. And when because once again, like I always would be annoyed like 20 years ago when people say ignore the polls, but that's what I'm saying now, because the polls in the last the three elections, 2023, 2022, and 2020. I don't know about 2021, the off year elections. Democrats have overperformed polls by like 8 or 9% across the board, which makes sense to me, because who are the people who answer unknown phone calls? They're gonna be old people. You're not gonna have a lot of young people answering those calls. Anyone south of 60 is like no, and they don't have landlines either. And the abortion thing completely changed the game. That the Republicans are getting their asses kicked every time. Every time they overturn abortion, they put it up on a ballot, and people come out and they vote for Democrats. And those people are normies. And this is the thing that a lot of people like on the left, and I hang out with the far left. I am one of them. A lot of them are. We tend to get trapped in our own little bubbles. We tend to get trapped in that, and so. Those of us on like the hard left are justifiably outraged about Joe Biden's continuing, the support of Israel and everything. I get it. I understand. And then a lot of them, the uncommitted votes during the primaries and everything. I don't shit on anyone who decides that, hey, that's where I draw the line, is the massacring of Palestinian children. Perfectly fine by me. I'm cool. However, that's not going to be most Americans. Like that. It's not the people who are going to come out to vote to protect Roe v. Wade, or to protect women's or protect abortion, are going to outnumber the protest Palestine votes 10-1 easily. And so, and Joe Biden knows this too. This is why, unfortunately, that's why that they take the position that they have. And then we haven't even brought in the other side of the coin here, is that Donald Trump always looks bad. Like whenever he comes out, he's always, a new charge is being levied against him. He's come up with a new slur for a different minority group or something. Like he's always like he's not gaining any votes when he goes on TV. Like the Trump vote is locked in, it's secure, like it's solid. They're not going anywhere, but his appeal has kind of reached critical mass. And I remember I bring my dad a lot this conversation. It's weird. But I remember talking to my dad like in 2018 or something like that. And my dad said that, I just think that, the way Donald Trump is, just like the way he's behaving, he's going to turn off a lot more voters. And like, I don't think he can win. I was like, man, I don't know, Dad. Because like I bought into like the upswell of all the Trump support, and more people voted for him, but way more voted against him. My dad was right. And I think we're going to continue to see that more and more, that Donald Trump, he's not going to be, rallying this giant cause. More of his supporters die every single day. They're ancient. So yeah, I don't know what you have seen, but I've seen a lot of doom and gloom from liberals to leftists that, Biden and the Democrats are going to get killed. And I just see the exact opposite.
I see the same thing from other people, and I don't agree with them. I think that there's reasons to be concerned, but I think, as long as we don't forget to fucking vote, as long as we actually go there and do it, then there's no like Donald Trump is not a popular person, right?
No.
Like, he's been a popular person, and he's less popular every time he comes out and talks.
Yes.
Right? Like his polls always go up when he lays low, and they always go down when he's in the news all the time. And guess what? In October, he's going to be in the news all the fucking time. And I keep hearing all these people talk about how Joe Biden is demented. And I'll be the first to admit, he's not a great public speaker. But have you ever seen Trump talk? Like, he's got a weird charisma to him, but he doesn't make any sense when he's actually talking. Like, Donald Trump is not a good speaker. You see a thumbs up over here?
I did. I don't know where that came from. I have no clue. What's up with that?
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, it's like, I think once people are comparing Joe Biden to Donald Trump, that's going to be a boost for Joe Biden and a negative for Donald Trump. And I'm also to the left of Joe Biden. Like, I'm a person who would love to see the Democratic Party win, but also like a third party to the left of the Democratic Party show up. But kind of where we've got a two-party system, and every time the Republicans win, that gets me further away from what I want. the pragmatic view that I have is like, if we let the Republican win half the time, I'm going to die unfulfilled with, you know, where the world is. But if we just destroy the Republican Party, if we make them lose every fucking time, then the Democratic Party would naturally end up moving to the left. At least that's what I think they would do. I see a lot of people that are further to the left than me. They just see no reason to vote because they don't like either party. But it's like, you have to guys are further from what you want than the guys on the left. Like, I think. As long as we keep putting these right wing people in the Supreme Court, we're never going to get any to what we want. So, like, even though I'm uninspired by a lot of the people on the Democratic Party, fuck, man, I can't see how other people wouldn't see them at least being a step in the right direction.
Yeah, the issue that gives me a lot of solace here is I don't know. Like, yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people would say, okay, if it's a choice between Trump and Biden, I'm choosing Biden. But it's more of an like it was like 2020. It's like the votes are anti-Trump votes more than pro-Biden votes. Like, right. that's yeah. Given the option, they're going to go with Biden, even if they don't like him. You know, what was that?
Oh, I said that's me. Like, I am not a fucking like. I get accused of being a Joe Biden fanboy because half of my content is just saying, like, yeah, Biden's not as bad as you just said he is. But, like, I don't love Joe Biden. I reluctantly voted for him in the 2020 election because I had to vote against Donald Trump. But I didn't vote for him in the primaries. I wouldn't have voted for him in the primaries if there was really a primary system this time around.
Yeah, I know, right.
Clearly the better of two choices for the world that I want to live in going forward. And given the slow nature of American politics, we don't have a fucking dictator or something. Like, we're gonna have slow incremental movement. I gotta move things incrementally to the left, and that's the only way I'm gonna get it is by voting as blue as I can every fucking time.
So I remember in 2015 when Trump announced that he was running. Back in those days, he didn't have a lot. He didn't have a lot of support from the mainstream Republican Party. You can find tons of quotes of people like senators and governors and like people in high positions Republican Party shitting on Trump like all the time. Like, this guy is a clown. He's a joke. He's an embarrassment to the party. He's never going to get anywhere. But he kept winning and kept winning and kept winning. And now, you know, they're kissing his ass all the time. But they know how poisonous Trump is to the Republican Party. They know that every person he supports for governor or Congress or Senate gets their shit kicked in. They know that he's made the United States an international embarrassment. He knows that the vast majority of Americans despise the guy, but it doesn't matter because the fucking rubes who vote in Republican primaries love him. Like, they love Donald Trump. They love his bigotry. They love that he's entertaining. Let's be real. They love that he's funny and that you know, he can think on his feet. He is like you mentioned, his charisma. He genuinely does have a lot of riz. Like, he does. Like, he can get up in front of a crowd and he can tell some funny jokes here and there, make some funny observations, and they aren't always polite, whatever. And if you're a simpleton, that's gonna work. The funny man, the funny TV man's on. I'll vote for him. And look, he used a racist slur. So that's gonna, you know, hurt Trump too. But what really interests me that Trump is just, oh yeah, they would say back in 2015 that, hey, in fact, we think before he started winning, they would say, I think Trump is just a Democrat plant to destroy the Republican Party. I'm starting to think they were right because that's exactly what he's doing. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought that. Like, my dad thought it was a conspiracy theory of mine when I said, like, yeah, I think Donald Trump is trying to guarantee that Hillary Clinton wins. I'm still not 100% convinced that that's not how it started.
Right? They just went awry.
I think that the Republican Party had really kind of a shift where they could have fixed things on January 7th of 2021.
Yep.
Right when that happened, people were like getting ready to turn on Donald Trump, and that could have been their off-ramp. And they pussed out at the last.
They did.
Moment. They gave up and they turned their back on doing the right thing. And that was a time that I think enough of the population would have been on their side. Like, I think enough of the MAGA crowd would have been like, you know what, that was fucked up. You don't think so?
No, I think the vast majority of the population would have been. The MAGA crowd, absolutely not. The MAGA crowd would have died for Trump. I mean, some of them did. And so I think that like that solid block of Republican parties who would give their children to Donald Trump, that was a big. I mean, that's why they pushed out, because that was a big enough section of the Republican base that they couldn't afford to lose them. Which is why they, like, on January 7th, they all said how bad this was, but by January 10th, they're like, oh well, hold on, maybe it wasn't so bad. I think that's really what did it, is that they failed to understand how rabid that the support for a lot of these people wasn't for Republicans. It's not even for conservatism. Like a lot of people weren't even politically active until Trump came on the scene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, is always used. She didn't give a shit about politics until Trump was elected. Like, that's when she got involved in it. So those people, they knew they would lose. And so they're like, all right, well, I guess we got to stick with this. I personally wanted to see Trump impeached and removed from office, not only because it was obviously the right thing to do, but it would have been very funny, a cool historical moment to live in, to have 3 presidents in 1 month, because Trump would have been removed, Pence would have been president for like 2 weeks, and then we had Biden inaugurated. That'd be pretty funny. That'd be a pretty cool historical footnote or something like that. But you're right. They had the opportunity to rid themselves of Trump, but now they're stuck with him. They're stuck with him forever. And here's my question. Go ahead.
Well, they're stuck with him till he dies now. I feel like that was the off-ramp, and they've always had something they've had to do. They're either going to keep losing these elections, like winning primaries, then losing elections, or they were going to have to disavow the whole MAGA thing, because the MAGA thing is not popular. And they've been pushing it off, and they've really not done well in an election since then. Like, they won 2016 election, and people forget, I don't know how they forget, but it was a fucking close election that they barely won. Like, it was a underdog winning, but like, he didn't win by a lot. You know, you flip 3 states that combined were like 70,000 vote difference. He barely won, but they make it act like this is huge triumph. He lost the 2018 elections, lost the 2020 presidency, lost the 2022 elections, and there's still an avenue for conservatism is the thing. It's always the people that Trump supports that lose in the fucking general election. But like, it's not like conservative, like just like old school conservatives from 10 years ago. It's not like they're all gone. Like, those guys keep winning elections. It's the Trump crowd that keeps losing all these general elections. And the Republican Party doesn't seem to be willing to just go back to a Mitt Romney kind of time, when that's what they need to do. And they would probably lose an election or two in the meantime while they kind of recalibrate. But they're going to keep losing until they do that.
I disagree with you that the Republican Party doesn't want that. They definitely do. Like, the Republican Party wants Nikki Haley. The Republican Party wants goofball Ron DeSantis. It's the Republican voters that don't want that. Like, when you get to like the actual politicians, they can't stand Donald Trump. They want him gone yesterday. But there's a sizable, the majority of the people who vote in the primaries, the people who care the most, are insane fucking MAGA conspiracy theorists. Like, that's the driving force of the party now. So they are stuck with that. And what I was going to ask about this, I guess the same thing, is I think Trump will lose, and this is going to be his last hurrah. Either way, honestly, it'll be his last hurrah. But where does the Republican Party go from here? Because like if you listen to what Republicans say, they have no solutions to problems, obviously, or they create problems that don't exist, like, trans people. But they focus on, like, if you look like the 2022 elections, it was something like 70% of voters under 30 voted blue, and they lost women by 35 points or something. But what do Republicans always do? They keep shitting on young people. They tell them they're entitled. They tell them they're lazy. They tell them they need to stop complaining. They tell women they can't get abortions. They're doing their best to demonize every immigrant or minority group possible. All the groups that are actually growing, like all the population groups that are getting bigger, and to cater to old people who are going to be dead in 5 years. And it's like, okay, what is your game plan here? Like, this is an unsustainable political model, and you know it. So they're going to need to do a political realignment, or do what they've done the last 6 years, just keep getting their asses kicked. I don't get it.
So you ask where they're going from here. If you would have asked me any other time, I would have said they would sit back and actually think about what just happened, right? They would do the 2012 where Mitt Romney
the autopsy,
and they like, okay, maybe we need to start courting Latinos or whatever. But then the 2020 election happened, and they just fucking lied about it, right? Like, we didn't lose. Why would we change anything? And I guarantee they're going to lose this 2024 election and just say they won. Why would we
Oh,
cheat?
yeah.
We fucking won. They cheated. Know how we cheated, but they're going to say that we cheated, and because we cheated, they don't have to change anything. That's my theory on what would happen. I might be pleasantly surprised that they'll actually like try and improve as a party, but I doubt it. Like I
No.
bet they're gonna take that L and act like they got a W the whole time.
Yeah, that they will. They absolutely will do it. I mean, that's like from now on, you just have to assume that any Republican that loses will say the election was stolen. Like it's guaranteed. Now they're going to do it, but it's not going to work. I mean, it can't work. It's a self-defeating strategy to tell your people elections are bullshit. What are people going to do if they assume elections are bullshit? They're not going to vote. Like you already have a dwindling population. Why would you go ahead?
Well, so yeah, that's actually something I've said in the past is I think that strategy that they've been doing the last couple of years, saying the 2020 election was bullshit, is bad for two reasons. Because one, you're telling your own people that voting is bullshit.
Yep.
But also you're telling everyone in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, you didn't vote against me. You voted for me. Make those people like you more or less? Like, come on.
Good point.
Like, he's telling all the battleground states that what they did didn't actually happen. And that doesn't strike me as being a winning strategy. On top of what you pointed out that, yeah, of course, like telling your own voters that elections are bullshit. Yeah, it's going to really convince them that they need to show up. I love telling Trumpers that, yeah, we stole that election. You can't figure out how we fucking...
I know. It's great.
Like TikTok takes that down whenever I do it. So I can't do it anymore. But like I used to fucking get a kick out of that.
Oh, I haven't done that in a long time because I used to do that too. I would be like, yeah, of course. I took a bunch of fake ballots and you guys were too dumb to stop me. What does that say about you? I mean, and this is how you like, a lot of them do believe it, but it's like a hope more than a belief. Like they hope that's what happened because if you ask them, listen, if it's easy enough to fake millions of votes, why don't you fucking do it? If you know that your opponent is cheating, you're an idiot if you don't cheat too. So like you're just saying that, yeah, all the Democrats are just a lot smarter than us. And they in that case, they deserve the win. You're an idiot. If it's that, I knew a guy I worked when I was in the Army who he was telling me that, yeah, a buddy of mine, he lives in Colorado and he filled out a fake voter application to get someone else's ballot, and it worked. That proves his bullshit. I was like, so he committed voter fraud? Like you're telling me that this guy committed a felony, like committing a felony to own the libs? And he's like, well, I was like, all right, so you're telling me this guy got all this person's info. How did he get it? Like, how did he sneak all that? It's like, it's bullshit. Like they make up, and you're telling me he did this, what, hundreds of times? So it actually would affect some sort of vote? It's like, no, it's not easy to do that. That's why the numbers are so low on this. But the fact that we did it and you couldn't figure it out, that just proves we should be in charge. Like, let the smart people run this shit.
If you can't prove that we fucking cheated, then you don't deserve to be there in the first place.
No, you don't.
Meme that I saw a long time ago, this girl that I went to high school with posted, where it shows like an empty fridge and it says middle class in America.
Oh, fuck off. Yeah.
It says welfare in America, right? And I told her, it's like, quit your job.
Yeah.
Like, you are a parent. If you are spending 40 hours a week so you could provide less for them, you are a bad fucking mom.
Yes.
And like, I've got too much pride. It's like too much pride to be a good parent. What's wrong with you? If you actually do, you are doing your children a disservice. But you don't actually think this is true, do you? Right.
Yeah. I say that shit too. When people post that, is so fucking obnoxious because that's the obvious answer. Like you don't tell me you have too much pride. Like, yeah, I enjoy working at my shitty job with my boss yelling at me so I can have less food for my family. No, you don't. You just want to find someone else to shit on because you need to feel better than somebody. But even if that's the case, they're smarter than you. I'm sorry. Like that is a smarter person than you. They deserve the food and you don't.
You're telling me that the person who is sitting at home with a full fridge is like the bad guy here? You're a fucking hero. You're a saint for working a shitty job you complain about all the time. Just it kills me. So that's the same thing I see with voter fraud. It's like, yeah, bring some sort of evidence to the table. Show us that we did it. Or are you just gonna cry about it a little bit, which is what they love doing?
I just encourage them to do it themselves. I do. I challenge. Listen, that you. It's that easy. You fucking do it. Don't go whining because someone else figured out how to break the rules when you didn't. Because that just makes me respect your intelligence less than I already did. So that shit's on you, man.
I would love to see a bunch of fucking MAGA people just get a bunch of felonies.
I know, right? It's
he has to do.
It's and like that. I don't know. It's just I remember this girl I went to college with. She posted a video of Sid. This is like I don't know, February 2020, and she posted a video of Mike Lindell and Sidney Powell, and she's like, "Wow, they're about to blow the lid open on this." And I was like, you are a college graduate. Like I know you went to college. Like I thought you were like moderately intelligent, at least. I mean, even if Sidney Powell and Mike Lindell, if they agreed with everything I said, I would not trot them out as examples of, oh wow, we should really listen to these folks. They've got. I was like, you can't tell these people are morons. You can't tell. That's actually the saddest thing about this whole Trump thing is that a shocking number of Americans don't know a legitimate, an obvious con man when they see one. Like that's incredible to me. I thought people were a little more perceptive than that.
It amazes me that like he is surviving this whole selling a Bible thing that's going on right now. Like I don't believe in God, and I don't believe that Donald Trump believes in God. But I would have to be more sure than I am that God doesn't exist before I started selling fucking Mr. Fuzz Bibles. Like I would have 100% positive. And the fucking balls that he's got, and then people are I don't know if they've come out yet, but like people are gonna be buying these things. Like that's crazy to me that these people that are like so fucking, you know, Donald Trump, everything that these people should hate, right? He's a silver spoon Yankee from New York who's cheated on every wife he's ever had, and you know, like they just think like, oh yeah, God sent him here to fucking own the libs. This is baffling to me that people go for this. The guy's trying to slap his name on everything just to make a buck, and he's doing it even more now. Coincidentally, all of a sudden, when people are actually getting money from him in courts right now, like now that he's actually got to pay money, he's just selling everything he can, and they just like they don't notice. Like the self-professed fucking billionaire is just begging for money. And his fans are giving it to him, and that's so disappointing.
It is insane that like this is how you know the conservative right are absolutely full of shit. It's because they love Donald Trump and hate Mike Pence. That's all you need to know. Like Mike Pence, it's like for as awful a person as he is, he believes this shit. Like he actually is a devout Christian. He's pious. He goes to church. He has horrible views, obviously, but he's legitimate. Like that's the reason they brought him on board. They dumped him immediately. The second he went up against Trump, they chose Trump 100%, and that's all you need to know. Go ahead.
Oh, and he barely went against Trump. Like all he did was just follow the fucking rules. And
right? Yeah.
Like, oh, you didn't overthrow the country for our boy. Like.
It's like that, and also it's like what you mentioned about Trump. I've always, you know, I'm not the first person to make this observation, but could you imagine if Barack Obama had 5 kids by 3 different women? What Republicans would have been saying about him for the last, 12 years or something? It's like, breakdown of the black family. This poor example for African Americans. That's all they would be talking about. They don't give a shit when it comes to Trump. Don't care at all. And I think it's go ahead.
With Obama, they just made shit up.
Yeah, right.
Deal with people saying that he was from Kenya or Indonesia. Indonesia always used to be like, why the fuck do you guys think he was from Indonesia? But like I've heard that times.
Because he went to school in Indonesia for a couple of years.
Oh,
yeah. When he was like 10 or 11 or something, he went to school in Indonesia for a couple of years. That's why that came from. But yeah, he was born in Hawaii. I remember when Obama was president, the conspiracy theory, Bill O'Reilly, even of all people. I remember Bill O'Reilly saying, okay, folks, I hear a lot of you guys talking about Barack Obama being born in Kenya. I found a copy of his hometown newspaper from 1961 with his birth announcement on there. Do you think he time traveled back in like Bill fucking O'Reilly was like, folks, this is bullshit, but they still did it. They still kept preaching it over with all. In fact, Obama's election is when I found out there were two different types of birth certificates. I didn't know that because he released his birth certificate and they're like, yeah, where's the long form? I was like, wait, there's there's two different, there are two different birth certificates. I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was a short form and a long form because the short form, which works everywhere, like everywhere they see it, but no. We need the long government form. So get the fuck out of here. You guys, but I do want to say with Trump real quick that we've all made this joke before, but it is incredibly ironic to me that Trump is possibly our first atheist president was Donald fucking Trump. Like I know Donald Trump does. Like I can't expect. I suspect Obama didn't either, but who knows? I think he's too smart. But he at least was a professing Christian. There's no way in hell Donald Trump believes in God. Yeah, an atheist president who fucks porn stars and created a space force. That sounds cool as hell. But no, it's Donald Trump. It's like the worst possible person you can imagine.
Yeah, if Donald Trump if Donald Trump was who I thought he was back in the day, he probably would have been way.
Yeah, even just being like an annoying rich guy would be fine. But no, it's just bigotry, racism. It's like the worst possible representation of the United States. It's a real shame.
Yeah. If he was just going to be the hedonist, that would be fucking rad. If he even just like did the thing he said back in the 90s, I guess he used to be pro-life pro-choice, all this kind of stuff. He used to apparently have some pretty liberal views, and he has just fucking gotten rid of all of those because he's chasing the voter base.
It's so crazy. And like there's a conspiracy that, which is ironically coming to fruition, that Trump is there to destroy the Republican Party. It's exactly what he's doing. But I mean, I was always under the impression that Trump just ran to raise, like a lot of people run for president to just raise their name recognition and get more money. I honestly believe that's what he did. Like I thought he did it because he did it before. He ran like in 2000 in the primary or something, but this time it just worked. It just happened to work. Like no one thought he was going to win. It's like, holy shit, I actually did. And he had no business being there at all. It is a staggering indictment on our country. Although, I mean, it is the Electoral College is bullshit. I mean, like the fact that we still have this thing around is wild to me. I know you've definitely had arguments with people on the TikToks strangely defending this archaic, ridiculous system. Like, it came from God or something. It's wild how indoctrinated people are with this stuff.
Yeah, I agree that Donald Trump was probably a publicity stunt that just went too fucking far.
Yeah.
But also, there was such a huge field for the Republicans in 2016. Because when you look at the primaries, he was polling at like 30% or something, but there was 15 other guys.
Yeah.
And they were in that vote, much like what the Democrats did in 2020, where there was like 30% going for Bernie, and then there was the other 70% split. The only difference between the two is the Democrats nipped that in the bud, and they got rid of Joe Biden. So then it was Biden against Bernie, and Biden got more votes. And they just didn't do that with Donald Trump. So by the time that Donald Trump had a field where it was going to be him against one or two people, he already had so many delegates that he basically had it clinched in. But he never would have won if it was just him against Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz in the beginning. They would have fucking stomped him. But he built up.
Go ahead.
Oh, that was the end of my thought. But yeah, he just built up all this momentum in a crowded field, and he stood out.
It's also weird because the Republican primary is more Democratic than the Democratic primary, like a lot more Democratic, and that they you ever hear right wingers are like, I can't believe you're voting for the Democrats. Like, don't you realize that I can't believe you're criticizing us for saying that the 2020 election was rigged. You guys say that 2016 was rigged against Bernie. Like, what's the difference? Like, okay, all right, because we have an adult understanding of the word rigged here. Like, no one is saying that there were thousands of fake ballots pumped in for Hillary. No one says that. Like, they would do stuff like every time, like Clinton had the same effect that Obama had, or that Trump had, that the more she talked, the less people liked her. But the more Bernie talked, the more people liked him. So they would schedule debates between Bernie and Hillary during football games. So people would watch them less and less and stuff like that. It's and also the superdelegate process. Like the fact that delegates can pledge for a candidate before any votes take place. So when they show the delegate count, it shows, oh my God, Hillary Clinton has 300 delegates and Bernie has 12, when really they both have 12, but she has 288, super delegates, which is bullshit. Like those shouldn't exist at all. And they only exist to stop someone like Sanders. The Republicans had no mechanism in place to stop someone like Trump. So ironically, democracy is what the Republican Party is what ended up handing us Trump.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And the superdelegates was kind of a ridiculous system, which is why I understand we got rid of them after that election. Granted,
kind of.
What's that?
They're still there. So the super delegates only don't count in like the first round of voting. If it goes to a second round, they can come back and they can. So the establishment can still override the will of the people if it makes it to the second. It won't. I mean, this time obviously it doesn't matter. But yeah, so it got rid of them in kind of ways, not the complete way.
Yeah, well, and then the 2020 election was fucking weird because then the world ended before the primaries did. So like the primaries never even came to my state because COVID happened before that. So that was kind of a weird process. Yeah, I thought the superdelegates were gone, but I guess if it's like an overtime kind of thing.
Yeah, they can still do it. You know what's weird about primaries too is that the primary system as we know it today didn't exist until like 1965 or 64 or something like that. Before that, there were primaries, but the primaries were held by like Republican Party officials and Democratic Party officials. The state wasn't guaranteed. They did it in a few states, but this concept where every one of the states votes for a candidate, well, it didn't exist. It's like a couple of states did it, but usually the state party officials would just pick a candidate and then put them out there and vote amongst the 100 or 200 of them. And that's how you got your presidential candidate for each party. So it's gotten more democratic as time has gone along, but there are still some holdovers on that.
Well, yeah, and that's actually one of the arguments that I use against the Electoral College. Because one of the things I say about the Electoral College is that made sense 250 years ago. But you can watch two candidates on TV and hear what they have to say and just be like, yeah, I like that guy better. I want to vote for him. Back in the day, like I would have never likely seen these candidates in the first place. But I could be like, TJ, you seem like a smart guy. Go represent me and vote for, Joe Biden or something.
Yeah.
College made sense when there was actually electors, but now we vote by states, and then the state just picks electors that will probably vote the way their state says to, but don't.
Isn't that weird?
They're still faithless electors, and the fact that we fucking allow that to happen. On what state? They may get $1,000 fine, but some states have no fucking repercussions if you're a faithless elector, and that's fucking ridiculous.
It's wild. Like our election system is so fucking weird. For the presidency specifically, and it used to be weirder. So on our show, we talk a lot about how when the country was founded, we didn't have the president and vice president ticket thing. Back in those days, everyone just ran against each other, and the top vote became president. And the person with the second most votes became vice president, which is insane. Because say what?
That never ended up with an assassination.
It did. It did. Yeah. And so this went on for. Say what?
I said I thought they changed that before the first guy got shot.
Well, no. So this went on for 12 years, I think. Maybe 16. But so Adams was the number 2 vote. So he was vice president for the first 2 terms of Washington. Then Adams was president and Jefferson got the second most vote. And then, so Jefferson ran in 1804, I think. And I don't think there was a majority. Yeah, there wasn't a majority of people. No one got a majority of Electoral College votes. And so it was between Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr.
Right.
And so Hamilton went. So it goes to the House. So Hamilton goes to the House and he's like, "Look, I don't like Thomas Jefferson, but fuck Aaron Burr. That guy can go to hell." And so Hamilton put his weight behind Jefferson, which made Jefferson president. And Hamilton ended up shooting. Then Burr ended up shooting Hamilton. So in a way, it did result in assassination.
Right, but what I mean is, I'm amazed that no Aaron Burr fanboy killed Jefferson and made him president. Right?
Yeah.
If Donald Trump and Joe Biden were going against each other and the loser is vice president, you know the winner is getting shot. Like you
we came up with this bit a while ago when we started talking about this. Is like how funny it would be if Donald Trump was vice president right now. Like it would be a reality TV show I could not take my eyes off of. Like he would be an official representative of the White House going off, just going rogue on any. He'd have access to security briefings. He would have access to everything the president does and just talk about it. And also, he would also, as the vice president, is president of the Senate, which means you dictate who the parliamentarian is. And as I found out over the last couple of years, the parliamentarian is apparently a pretty important job. It's something I'd never heard of in my life. But like when the Republicans tried to get shit through in the early 2000s and the parliamentarian tried to stop them, Dick Cheney just fired the parliamentarian and replaced it with something like. So with a closed Senate, like it would be, it's actually wild the system lasted as long as it did. Like it actually is kind of wild that that's, so we're talking about people who just came up with this like bubble gum and chicken wire system they put together, and we still like, oh, we got to hold on to it. The sanctity of the electoral college. No, these folks are just figuring the shit out as they went along. We can let a lot of this go.
There was a bunch of fucking 30-year-olds that wrote this Constitution, and 240 years later, we're like, yeah, man, there's no way we could ever like do anything about it. Like those guys are really smart, and you know, like I don't even say that they're not smart, but like those guys didn't know what bacteria was, right? Like we've learned things since then. Like the world has evolved. We've gotten new ideas since then, and the Constitution was a very liberal document for its time.
Yeah,
we've learned some new things. Other ideas have come forward. It's crazy to me how just strongly people hold on to like the way they did it then, and there's no way we could possibly fucking make it any better. That's baffling to me.
They use it as a literal defense of this, like, well, this is what the founders want. Who cares? Like, who gives a shit what the founders wanted? Even them. Like, if like Thomas Jefferson thought there should be a constitutional convention every 20 years. Like he said, because listen, and rightly, he's like, listen, the rules we make now aren't going to make sense in the future because the world will be different. And he compared it to, it would be like me trying to wear the same clothes I wore when I was a 10-year-old. Like I wouldn't do that because I've changed since then. The country's going to change. And they were like, no, we'll keep it this way. And now we're all paying the price for this shit that they all decided, yeah, no, we're going to leave it here until 3/4 of the states change. No, it's awful. In fact, every amendment written before like 1920, when they allowed women to vote, should be over. Like, we're doing it all over again. Like we're starting all over now that black people and women can vote. We're redoing this entire thing. Like that seems fair to me. It's like I don't think records in baseball should count before integration. I don't think that these rules should count before everyone got to vote on it. That's how I feel about this shit.
Yeah, I mean, no disagreements there. I think we should go in there and rewrite a few things, and have some proper. Let the people actually decide how they want to fucking live their lives.
I agree. Yeah. I agree completely. Well, all right. Well, I went a little over like 20 minutes. I started an hour and a half, but I was fantastic. But Mr. Fuzz, tell everyone where we can find your fantastic content.
I mean, you can mostly find me just on the TikTok. I am Mr. Fuzz 2U. So it's just what you see here, Mr. Fuzz, and then the number 2 and the letter U. And I crank out probably 5 videos a day on average, and it's mostly just me responding to MAGA idiots and telling them why I'm smarter than them and why they're wrong. I've got a minor in economics that I got in college, and I say some very basic economic stuff as to like why inflation happened. And these people just don't seem to understand. So mostly what I do is I own a bunch of fucking on there, and it's fun to me.
I for one can vouch for it that it is fantastic content. It's very fun to watch him dunk on these idiots, and they are idiots. Like I feel bad for them sometimes, but it is entertaining. But thank you so much, Mr. Fuzz. Oh, go ahead.
I don't feel sorry for stupid people, especially like the aggressively and intentionally stupid people. Like these people could educate themselves. The amount of videos that I have made where I explain the difference between the deficit and the debt. Just
yeah.
I'm gonna increase the debt. They're being. I don't feel bad for them.
I guess I feel bad that they are stupid because I mean, I maybe there are some like people who have like the brain matter to actually figure this shit out, but I've given up on a lot of folks. I just given up. It's like, okay, you're just dumb. It sounds elitist to say it, and I like it when they call me arrogant. I love that. It's like, yeah, I am. Like I'm smarter than you. I've earned the right to be arrogant. And this is like, if you're a mechanic and you're telling me what's wrong with my vehicle, I'm not going to call you arrogant. I'm not, because you know what you're doing and I don't. But with this topic, I know what I'm talking about, and you've proven you have no clue.
Yeah, they call me condescending all the time, and I'm like, yeah, well, you're barely on the level that I can even talk down to you. Like,
it's true. It's true.
It's hard to do. Like I'm not trained to be a kindergarten teacher, right? Like I don't know how to be nice anymore. Like I can tell you the truth, and if you don't understand it, I have to dumb it down to where you can understand. And if you get mad that I'm dumbing it down for you, be smarter.
Try being smarter. Exactly. Try being smarter. We'll be better off. But all right. Well, thanks a lot, Mr. Fuzz. We'll see you around. Check out his content, folks. Catch you guys later.
Right on. Later, guys.